Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Golden Opportunities Coaching. Today we're going to talk about coping with and signs of high-functioning anxiety. High-functioning anxiety is different than general anxiety. High-functioning anxiety is something that I deal with clients a whole lot, and also it's something I've dealt with my whole entire life as a person. So I have a unique input into this topic because it's something I deal with, have dealt with, have learned to work around, and no longer affects me nearly as much as it used to. Might affect me 2 or 3 times a month now. It used to affect me every day before. And so what is high-functioning anxiety? So anxiety is the fear of the unknown turned up in an emotional way that can negatively impact the ability of a person to do daily activities. Therefore, high-functioning anxiety is the fear of the unknown that allows a person to continue to do daily tasks, but amid great emotional upheaval and upset. And so I've got a list of signs and symbols, but also ways to work around most of them, things for you to try if you haven't tried them already. Unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, high-functioning anxiety, at least in my last look, is not actively diagnosable in the DSM, or the diagnostic book used by most psychologists, psychiatrists, and therapists. So it's a little bit harder than a traditional mental disorder to treat because the person you're working with has to know the signs and symbols, be able to ask the right questions, and then help you address them in an appropriate manner. So a lot of times people will have this and they'll go undiagnosed for months or even years. And this is not to say that every person who has this has all of these symptoms or even half of them. As with any mental or emotional disorder, different people are affected different ways. Please do not think that if you only have 1 or 2 of these things that you're excluded from being affected by this, and also don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all cure or one-size-fits-all pill that's going to make it all go away. Every person is different. Every treatment plan is different. So the first thing is when you go away from social interaction, even if you were looking forward to it. And this was huge for me when I was younger, especially being wheelchair-bound. Social interaction, especially in large groups. Small groups was okay. I did good with groups of 5 or less. That was fun. I could interact with people, place myself in a place in a room where I didn't feel uncomfortable or like I was in the way, and go about my business of having a good social interaction. However, group functions, large group meetings, going to the mall, going to a ball game, or anything like that, unless I was in a performer role, drove me nuts. So people that fear social interaction because they're afraid to be in the way, they're afraid to say the wrong thing, they're afraid that they may not be liked by the group, they're afraid they may be bullied, they're afraid they may be ostracized from the group or say something that will make others laugh at them. These are people that might have high-functioning anxiety because their mind goes to everything that can go wrong with people they haven't even met yet. So, and here's a trick that I learned in my early 20s to combat this very silly and annoying part of the disorder. When I had to go into social situations that were larger than I liked, I would purposefully find one person in the room whose body cueing I understood to be friendly, and I would go and try to strike up a conversation with that person. And then it was almost like putting on blinders for the Kentucky Derby or earmuffs, like if you're going to a shooting range. I would block out every other conversation in the room and every other person in the room while I was consumed with getting to know that one individual. Now, that may last for 5 minutes, that may last for 10 minutes, that may last for 2 minutes, or that may last for 2 hours. It didn't matter. I was only focused on that one person because then it was manageable. If it went well, I could continue it. If it didn't go well, I could disengage from it. And I found that that was a way to combat that particular symptom. I've later learned that ultimately doing that even in mid-sized group settings can be helpful as long as you're comfortable as a conversation starter. This does not work for people that are uncomfortable being icebreakers or conversation starters. And you may want to look for alternative options if you happen to fall into both of those categories. The next thing that we're looking at is the meeting of new people can feel overwhelming. And again, this is usually because we can't necessarily get a good read because we're thinking in our own head about everything they might be thinking about us, right? So we're thinking, what if they think we're fat? What if they think we're dumb? What if we think they're annoying? What if we think they think we're whatever it is, right? And so the concept of meeting new people becomes overwhelming. And so the way to reset the brain away from this, because it's reprogramming the mind. And I think it's so sad when people have to feel that medication is their only solution, because in reality, proper prep and linguistic programming and meditation and visualization and techniques of deep breathing and all sorts of other things can be perfectly viable options in concert or in alternative to medication. So one thing to do is say, I believe that I can meet one person today with whom I connect. I believe that I can meet one person today that will understand a part of me. I believe I can meet one person today that I will help and serve. These are all useful ways to combat that overwhelm of meeting a whole group of new people. The next thing is the anxiety will make you want to hurry, right? The quicker you get things done, the less likely you are to mess up. So you're automatically going to go, okay, how can I get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out, do this, get it done, get her done, get her done, right? And that may mean walking through a store really fast and bumping into people. It may mean walking across the street without looking where you're going. It could mean only half listening to a person. I remember one time I was at the mall and I was at a restaurant, and my anxiety was really, really high because it was a high-end restaurant. And so I was thinking, okay, I just need to get through ordering. This is going to be awkward. This is going to be uncomfortable. This person's wearing a suit and tie, and I'm wearing like less than complimentary clothes. No one told me where we're going here, and I'm freaking out. And so the waitress comes over, and she says, would you like to order? And without missing a beat, and without even looking up from my menu, I said I already did. Now, she was very perplexed, but in my head, I already had. So I was answering her question as though she was living inside my head. After having a good laugh at myself and saying I'd been thinking about what I wanted to order for a while, and I actually thought I had ordered, and making fun of the incident, I got through it. But it was just a reminder that sometimes anxiety will make us rush through things without really meaning to. Okay, so the next issue in here is people with severe anxiety have trouble sleeping. This one is huge for me. It still exists in my life today. I've learned by going through sleep studies and doing many different healing techniques that my body is wired differently. My body actually shows as being awake even when I'm sleeping. So if you have a sleep disorder and anxiety, you might want to go see a medical professional and have a professional sleep study done to make sure there's nothing else, going on neurologically or neurochemically. That can be helpful. I've been a chronic insomniac for 30 years now, and it manifests as I can only sleep for a couple hours at a time, which ostensibly sounds like a really fun idea until you realize you do that for weeks or months at a time, and then it usually manifests as I'll sleep for 3 or 4 hours every night and then have a crash day every 5th or 6th day. Now, that's part of the reason I'm self-employed, believe it or not. You can't keep a regular schedule that way, and it can be physically debilitating. People combat this with natural remedies, or they take sleep medications. Just be mindful that a person with anxiety is also more prone to addiction by a cause of 4 to 1, because what happens in the brain is if the drug isn't working quickly enough, we're more likely to take more of a drug in order to get the effects quicker. So just be mindful that if you're going to take something like sleep medication or anti-anxiety medication, you are opening the door potentially to an addictive personality type archetype. I learned this the hard way when I got addicted probably about 15 years ago to an over-the-counter sleep medication. It took me several years to get off of it. So now I've decided to work around this weakness rather than try to fix it or mend it in any way. The next one we're looking at is we replay new conversation, old events, and constantly look at them like we're editing a movie and looking for ways to improve how we already behaved, so looking for ways to come to a different solution. What if I had said this? What if I had done this? What if I had been here? What if I had done this? What if I had avoided this? What if I didn't say this? What if I had said this instead? And you do it over and over and over again because you're trying to have this, what I call it leads into another thing on my list, the illusion of perfection or the illusion of competition. That is the idea that human interaction and socialization is in fact a competition to be won. Many people with anxiety think this way. There's a right and wrong way to do it. There's a win or a loss. If I win, no one has any negative emotions about me walking away from the conversation. If I lose, I've left a bad impression or a negative impression. Now, here's a way to work around the whole illusion of competition concept. Get close. You ready? Most people are so worried about what you're thinking about them that they don't have time to think about you. And that's a real reality that people forget, right? Because if 1 in 5 people, 1 in 5 adults has some form of anxiety in America today, so that's like 40 million, 45 million people have this. Most of the people you interact with that you're worried or are worried about what they think of you and you think of them are so focused on how they're coming across that they're not even seeing your little quirks. And if you begin to see that they're not seeing them, or you begin to see that, A, if I use humor to deflect away from them, or if I use, hey, this is me, just up front, and address them before they become an issue, you can actually deflect any negative consequence. You re-empower yourself really masterfully. So that's one that's one thing right there. So self-hate is another one, right? Because when we overplay things in our mind, we convince ourselves that not only have we done things wrong, not only have we messed up our lives, we've messed up other people's lives and made them uncomfortable. We've messed up potentially for our children, for our partner, for how our boss sees us, how our grandmother sees us, whatever. But also, we deserve to have this because we are the worst person in the world, and we're the most odd, and we're the most insane, and we're the most uncomfortable, and we're the most awkward. And so it quickly turns into self-hate. And so when you go to that place of self-loathing, immediately, like within the first 30 seconds, because the deeper you go into the loop, the harder the loop is to break. Within the first 30 seconds where you're like, I'm so stupid. Wait a minute. Time out. Let me think about a time I was smart. Let me think about a time I gave to somebody else. Let me think about a time that I pet a puppy in the street. Let me think about a time I watched somebody's baby. Let me think about a time that I immediately, helped an old lady cross the street. Let me think about a time that's the alternative of what's flooding my brain when I was impactful and positive and helpful. Because the quicker you do that, the more you redirect the self-hate, self-loathing behavior away from becoming part of your core. Because the dangerous part of self-hate is that it joins with other linking thoughts to create things like depression, further anxiety, panic attacks, fear-mongering, and all these other things. So it's important to interrupt the pattern as quickly as possible when a self-hating thought arises. Okay, so another one here is the overgiver, right? So the overgiver is a person who, this is the most common archetype I see for abuse survivors in relationships. It's also the most common pattern I see of behavior when it comes to people who are taken advantage of by family members and at work. I would even say that a good 70% of the clients I work with have the overgiver archetype somewhere in their lives, and it's destroying their self-image, self-view, or stealing their happiness, stealing their joy. So the overgiver works like this. It works on the false premise that we can earn things like happiness, love, security, the ability to have freedom. We can earn people's admiration. Like if we behave a certain way, they'll honor us more. We can earn people being nicer to us. We can earn people not bullying us. These are really silly things when you pull them out. But a person with high-functioning anxiety actually believes that there is a right way to behave, and if they give just enough, they can get a positive result. Now, the problem with this is that it impacts the type of persons you allow into your life. And the most common type of person that you'll allow into your life if you're an overgiver, and here's the O, is a person who is cold, a person who has a tendency towards pathology, and or a person who has a pathology towards narcissism. Because you have to be an overgiver to be able to fall victim to these personality archetypes. So, if you look at your life and you go, I give so much and no one ever appreciates it, you might want to look at the pattern of energy and pattern of behavior you're putting out there, because chances are a few tweaks in that pattern can help you to have healthier relationships, thereby a happier life. Okay, so the next thing that we're looking at is busy work. A person with high-functioning anxiety always has to be doing something. It doesn't matter if it means feeding the fish. It doesn't matter if it means coloring a coloring book. It doesn't matter if it means organizing the shelves. It doesn't matter what they're doing. But believe it or not, just like a person with depression finds it hard to do anything, a person with high-functioning anxiety has the inversion of that, and that is they have difficulty not doing something. So it's okay to admit, hey, I have that busy worker's personality. So what I tell people that are struggling with that, and I used to struggle with that too, and I'll be honest, I'll be very upfront, it has ruined many relationships for me, both romantic and friendships. So I'm really cognizant of it now, and I work on it on a regular basis. But one of the things that I tell people to do is plan your relaxation plan. Now, notice I didn't say plan what you're going to do with it, just plan that it exists. In other words, have a time in the day, have a time in the night, have a time once you've committed so many or completed so many tasks that you're going to relax on purpose. I'm going to disengage my mind and just do something veg-out worthy. Now, that could be something as simple as watch TV. That could be something as simple as pet the dog. That could be something as simple as look at traffic passing by or go look at pretty nature pictures. But the idea is to reward your brain with a mindless activity. You're never going to get away from having to do something, because a person with high-functioning anxiety is not going to be comfortable not knowing what they're going to do next. But if you can at least engage from time to time throughout the day in mindless activities, you at least give your synapse in your brain a chance to recharge. All right, so the next thing there, we've got two more, is they fear the future. They fear everything that could go wrong tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. So here's an interesting philosophy for those who struggle with fear of the future, fear of the unknown, and all that. Look, the only thing we have is the present moment. It's the only thing we have control over. It's the only thing that really, truly matters. The past doesn't matter because we cannot change it, no matter how hard we try. The future doesn't matter because it doesn't exist till we're in the middle of it, and when we're in the middle of it, it's then the present moment. So, ignore the future. If it becomes overwhelming, ignore it. Now, that doesn't mean don't dream, and it doesn't mean don't have some plans. Plan, sure, yes. If I get here, I'm going to do this. If I get ready to go to college, I'm going to go here. If I get ready to go on a date, I'm going to plan to meet up here. If I'm getting ready to apply for a job, this is the type of job I should apply for. But it's all based on the if-then fulcrum. If I do this, then I'll do that. Until then, I'm going to focus on the present moment. That is a much healthier way for the brain, because the if-then fulcrum gives you freedom while still making empowered decisions. The last one on the list, and some of the most dangerous, is the over-preparer. So the over-preparer will come up with every scenario that could possibly go wrong, and they'll have a solution for it. And I'm famous for this one. So they work backwards. And actually, this is a gift given to us by high-functioning anxiety, as long as we don't dwell on it too much. If you constantly are saying, well, if the worst thing happens, here's what I'll do. People are going to see you as negative. They'll see you as a downer, a party pooper, a pessimist, and all sorts of negative things. But if you hold in your heart and you hold in your mind a plan for the worst case scenario at all times, but you don't share it until you actively need to, you'll be seen completely differently. You'll be seen as resourceful. You'll be seen as a go-to person in crisis. You'll be seen as confident, comfortable, and someone to count on. So it's all about how much you share that tendency to plan for the worst case scenario and work backwards that determines how you're seen by the rest of the world. In any event, this is Scott Golden, Golden Opportunities Coaching. If you struggle with high-functioning anxiety or any other emotional challenges, or you'd really like to get unstuck in your life, please feel free to give me a contact. There are two ways to do this. Firstly, you can send me a message right here on YouTube, send a message to my inbox, or you can contact me on Twitter at POPerception, P as in Paul, O as in Oreo, Perception, and I'll get back to you. We do have the reconnection discount available. Anyone who searches for services during the COVID shutdown, the COVID lockdown, is going to be locked in for the life and duration of their services at the lowest possible rate, which right now is $50. So if that's you, or if you refer someone to the channel, another thing too, we're at over 100 subscribers right now. I want to get to 1,000 quickly. The reason I want to get to 1,000 quickly is because a portion of all proceeds that come from the monetization of this channel will go to charities and will go to those in need. So if you can help by sharing these videos and encouraging friends and family and loved ones to subscribe, that would be helpful. But until next time, I remind you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.